WNST, Towson, and I could sit here and tell you that I'll be watching the Caps this weekend and I'll be watching baseball all weekend because I will, and of course the Ravens and the Raiders Sunday at 4 o'clock. But it's been a little while, twice, maybe 3 times a year I like to catch up with this guy because he was a Steeler. I hated him when he was a Steeler. I love him now like a brother. He's out there in the Denver area doing all things football. He's running around doing college football. He was doing some coaching with the Jets this summer, and he's tweeting out of Chad Brown 94 as well as doing radio in Denver locally on some Broncos stuff. Dude, you're doing it all. I mean, you were not this busy when you were a player, Chad Brown, were you?
That's my complaint I hear frequently from my wife. Yes, number one, thanks for having me on. Yeah, you know, when you are trying to figure out what you're supposed to do with the rest of your life when you're done playing, I think being busy is a lot more fun than just waiting for my next tee time. So whether it's business, the broadcasting stuff you just listed, or the coaching internships that I've done the last 3 years now, I like to keep busy and surround myself with awesome, busy-minded people.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've been doing games. I mean, you got to see Alabama play last week against Ole Miss. You're doing USC and Oregon State this week. This is a full slate for you, right? And you know all about things in Boulder from your days there. I guess the college football thing, a lot of NFL guys don't go back to the college game in this way.
You know, the college game is it's certainly different. And obviously the difference between Alabama and Ole Miss, or say Washington versus Montana, a game I did a couple of weeks ago, that divide is so huge. Every week in the NFL, you're playing somebody who's literally just a tick above you or a tick behind you. So much depends on matchups and scheme and coaching ability and all that in the NFL, whereas it's just more of a talent based in college football. At the same time, college football, it's just so fun. You can see a team like Georgia Tech who's going to run the option. You can see a team like Washington that's balanced. You can see a team like Alabama, which is just, stacked with All-American after All-American. There's such diversity and such variety in college football. No matter what your football flavor is, you can find that in college football. You can't necessarily say that about the NFL week in and week out.
Well, certainly there's a lot of energy when you walk into Tuscaloosa last week, right?
It was my first time being at that stadium. Bryant-Denny Stadium was a very historic venue, obviously. A pleasure of mine to call a game there and really, just kind of see that whole scene. The Walk of Legends, where they all walk past the trophies of Bear Bryant, and Nick Saban's a very cool part of that atmosphere and scene. Beyond just the people of Alabama and the tremendous support they show for their team. It was a really just an amazing experience. Very lucky to have done that. And later on this season, I get a chance to go to Penn State, another historic venue. I get a chance to go back to Madison, Wisconsin to see Wisconsin play, another historic venue. So this college football thing is taking me on a tour of historic stadiums that are significant in the history of college football, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Alabama, man, I saw one game there about 17 years ago. They were playing UCLA of all teams. I came in on a plane, all the UCLA cheerleaders were at the Birmingham airport. I'm like, man, this is going to be something. And then, 100,000 people, and I hear Bear Bryant, I ain't never been nothing but a winner. And I'm like, woo, man, the hair on the back of your neck stood up. Did you go to the Bear Museum, do all that thing down there?
I did that. We were getting ready for our broadcast, so I didn't get a chance to do that. But they play that Bear Bryant clip as part of a hype video they play right before the kickoff. So I know exactly what you're talking about. It's amazing. A place like Alabama, obviously, they had tremendous success now, and they had tremendous success back then. But for them, I think the past is the present, and the present is the past. That all kind of intermingles there in an amazing football tradition.
Now, my wife and I lovingly call anyone in a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey cockroaches, right? Because they got them everywhere. They come out from the light. So I am walking literally, and this is a true story. 2 weeks ago, I get off the train at South Kensington. I'm walking toward Buckingham Palace in London, and I look up, and there, entering the gates of Buckingham Palace, is one lone soldier in a black and gold 94 Chad Brown jersey. And I raced after him to take a picture, and lo and behold, the minute I took the picture, I looked up, and my son and his wife appeared on his birthday. I accidentally bumped into my son chasing a Chad Brown jersey. There's something very mystical that happened. We celebrated over some large stouts in an Irish pub there in downtown London, but you are international, Chad. I mean, this whole Steelers thing, I was astonished at how how London took to the NFL, and I know you're an international guy, you travel a little bit, just seeing all the jerseys, all the color, all the pageantry over there, it really is amazing to be walking through the streets of London. You haven't played in the league in 15 years, and there's your jersey from the Steelers from the 1990s. It's crazy.
It is crazy. Now, on my Twitter, Abby, they ask you where you're from, and I said worldwide. And what you just talked about speaks to the worldwideness of Chad Brown. But I think it really speaks to the worldwideness of NFL football and the Steelers and certain iconic organizations as well. And I'm sure going over and taking in that London experience, it's pretty cool where they just don't wear the jerseys of the teams that are playing that Sunday. They wear the jerseys of anybody. And I think that's a kind of a cool unity thing for the NFL, not just for those particular teams that are playing. But everywhere I've gone in the world, whether it be Thailand or Indonesia or Costa Rica or Spain or any of the other places where I've been, I get recognized mainly on the basis of being a former Pittsburgh Steeler.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I've seen that in action in San Francisco. Chad Brown joining us here. He's Chad Brown 94. A little bit on your coaching side of things. I mean, we talked a little broadcasting. We'll get to the Ravens and the Raiders and, and what's going on with the Broncos and all that at the NFL level. But you were in locker rooms yet again. You're getting to be a little older. You're looking at coaching and dabbling, and you're not the only one. I mean, we have Brad Jackson here locally, Dwayne Starks, Michael McCrary. A bunch of guys have gone out on sort of the senior circuit in July and August to get a little taste of the coaching side of things. I think this knee thing is one of the biggest challenges I've ever seen for coaches in the modern era. And, Chad, I've covered hockey, baseball, basketball, football. I love it all. I love coaches more than I love anyone. I love smart people, and coaches are usually the smartest guys in the room. But this whole knee or not to knee and what can happen in locker rooms, you played the game a long time. This is really, really a very, very dicey area for coaches, right?
It really is. We've always think of the locker room and athletic teams as the ultimate, meritocracy. Your play, merits you the ability to be in this locker room and be a part of this brotherhood. And now we, introduce politics. Certainly the current political environment kind of makes things almost impossible to not have politics reverberate throughout our lives. But now politics are part of it. And there's certainly guys who are on both sides of that issue. And the coaches and front offices are trying to navigate that issue as well as ownership. Certainly ownership has donated money to the Trump campaign, so it's pretty clear where they come down politically. At the same time, they've got a locker room that's obviously not for some of the things that Trump is saying when Trump calls out NFL players. And it all gets muddled and confused when the fact that the protests are tied around the flag and the national anthem, not tied to it. No one's protesting the flag. No one's protesting the national anthem, but somehow it's got intermixed in all of that. So even when teams decide to take a knee either before or after the anthem and then stand for the anthem, the players still get booed and criticized. So it's a very touchy subject right now, very difficult to navigate. I think the big response we saw, a little over a week ago was mainly based on pushing back against the president and his comments. But I think the original purpose of this protest, going all the way back to Colin Kaepernick, still stands, trying to bring some attention to social injustice in our society. But in the midst of that, we've gotten lost, and now it has become about patriotism and the military and first responders and the flag. As a son of a Marine, as the brother of a lifelong Air Force person, I've got pretty strong feelings about the flag and the military and what they mean to our country and my own personal pride and my family's participation in those services. At the same time, I understand I've got First Amendment rights and the right to protest, and I can clearly see that there is a lot of social injustice in our society. If I were a player, I would think that I would join my teammates who were taking a knee. At the same time, I would do my best to continue to harp on the message that I'm not protesting against America, the flag, the national anthem, or the military. This is what my protest is for.
Chad Brown joining us here. He is Chad Brown 94. In your experiences in these locker rooms, I've been told by players, and, I have 4 to 6 players a week on, most of them, sort of well-spoken and a little older and out of the game and involved in broadcasting or coaching to some degree. Every one of them said a couple of these teams are going to get lost along the way just because black and white and left and right aren't going to mix in certain locker rooms amongst a bunch of alpha males. And quite frankly, when the orange man calls National Football League players sons of bitches and defies them to do something, guys like you and your kind and the people that have been around this game and sort of the men who play the game and the macho that goes into it and the way the game is played, I didn't think there was any way there would not be a massive protest last weekend when I was in London. And I think, that I don't think anybody can be shocked that guys like yourself, thoughtful guys, would strongly consider taking a knee.
The president clearly has not played team sports and does not have the ability to understand that you attack one of us, you attack us all. While we may differ politically within this locker room, and there'll be guys from the South who are white and guys from the South who are black and guys who went to Ivy League schools and guys who are, my last year I was 38 years old, and there's going to be guys who are 20. But we all come together for a common goal and purpose, and we all recognize within the locker rooms that the NFL, within each of its communities, does a tremendous amount of good. So when you start calling out players and players' mothers, as the president did, that's not going to be met with, with just silence. The players are going to protest back. And again, it got confused into protesting the anthem and the flag, but certainly there was going to be pushback against the president. And the fact that the president didn't understand that the NFL players themselves are extremely competitive, and it's a very tight-knit brotherhood, and we are going to respond to those kind of comments, just shows, his lack of understanding about the game and the men who play the game, but also his lack of understanding about the tremendous amount of good through community service, financial, donations, football camps,
help with the military, help with local police, going in Baltimore into riot areas after riots and trying to keep the peace. I mean, look, Chad, I've been at this quarter of a century too, and I know the difference between having an NFL team here and not having one. I've lived through that in my time on the radio. I had a local sponsor cancel my Ravens Live radio shows because, he didn't feel like the community wanted the show in his bar any longer because his community is up in arms and hates the Ravens all of a sudden, and they're not going to support the Ravens. So, I have felt it at the lowest levels, which is, I'm getting shot at now, right? So there's a whole different level of this being leveled upon the players, the owners, the coaches, the league, the commissioner, the Players Association. This is real sticky all the way around, and certainly in our community here in Baltimore, we had 30,000 people brewing a call to prayer, bro. I mean, I don't even know what to say to that when the words and the message on the other side aren't being heard. That's when you have chaos.
Yes, it's, I keep the protest away from football. Don't do your Black Lives Matter marches down the street. Protest anywhere but the lunch counter. So all these kinds of things are, in the end, just being anti-protest and anti-listening to the message. Where are we supposed to do these things that will generate the eyeballs and ears that we're looking to, tell our message to and why we are protesting? So, yes, it's a very interesting time beyond this issue in our country because of the very divisive politics that's been going on for the last year and a half, in some ways over the last 5 or 6 years. And, I'm not sure how this all ends up, but hopefully we can find a way to end up a stronger, more unified country with a better understanding of each other and where we're all coming from, and not just, you're on that side, I have to automatically hate you, as opposed to, oh, you've got a different opinion, maybe I should listen to what you have to say.
He is Chad Brown 94 out on Twitter. Let's get on to the field, dude. I mean, you're out in Denver. The Broncos have been surprising out there, and I know you're talking about Trevor Siemian a lot, as well as the Chiefs being as good as anyone and Alex Smith being solid. But, boy, we're going to see the Raiders this week, and when the schedule came out, you see Ravens and Raiders on the back end of the London thing and the Steelers game this week, and you knew it wasn't going to go so well. Boy, the Ravens, I don't remember a time when they've looked worse than they've looked the last couple of weeks. They're banged up. They're missing Yonda in the O-line, missing Brandon Williams, missing Brent Urban, and now going out and playing a gimpier version of the Raiders with E.J. Manuel. All of a sudden, this feels like something where the Ravens might be able to get well in Oakland this weekend.
It's certainly possible. Even before Derek Carr went out, that offense didn't do very much. Now, the Denver Broncos defense is playing at a very high level. Everyone's familiar with the no-fly zone they have back in the secondary, but their run defense is number one in the NFL. So very quick turnaround from where they were last year towards the bottom of the pile. New head coach Vance Joseph has certainly got that shored up. But there's not a lot of weapons on the Ravens. Beast mode is certainly going to run hard, but whether he's going to be productive, we haven't seen that very many games this season. Whether it was Derek Carr or now E.J. Manuel, not a lot of true weapons. Amari Cooper dropping the football, Crabtree, being nicked up. This is a chance, as you just pointed out, for the Ravens to kind of get things going in the right directions. I don't see this Raiders team as definitely not being what we thought they were in the preseason as a Super Bowl contender. They've got to find a way to right their ship. So the Ravens will be playing a Raiders team that's looking to get things going in the right direction after back-to-back losses.
In examining Khalil Mack, who I expect to be the best player on the field on Sunday, some thoughts about his game. I mean, you did that sort of job at a very high level for a long period of time. He's coming into his own as the player of the year last year.
Khalil Mack is a special, special talent, no doubt about that. And every team knows going into the game he's the primary person on the Raiders defense you have to focus against. Yet still he puts up 2 sacks, has a couple quarterback hits, I think 4 or 5 hurries, and was really, the biggest part of that Raiders defense. And in some ways had a chance to almost win the game for them by himself. As soon as the starting tackle for the Broncos goes down, they put in Donald Stevens, the backup. That next play, Khalil Mack gets a sack and ends up stripping the ball out of Trevor Siemian's hands. It was called back and said his knee was down before the ball came out. But that's the kind of plays that he can make. So that Ravens offensive staff is going to have to find a way to deal with him, which is easier said than done, because every week he goes into games getting double and triple teamed, but still is the most productive unit of that productive person on that Raiders defensive unit.
Yeah, I know you had an eye out on the Steelers, those old bums from Pittsburgh coming in and beating the Ravens. I mean, where the Ravens are right now at 44-0 over Jacksonville and not being able to get it going at all against the Steelers at home, it's very demoralizing, above and beyond all the protesting and all the nonsense and the booing of the knee and all that's happened here. What we've seen on the field over the last 2 weeks, as John Harbaugh would say, is below the bar all the way around.
I always look forward to the Steelers-Ravens matchup every year just because, I've played in that game and I know how physical it is and I know how much it means to both sides of the ball. And to see the Ravens, not even come close to the bar, much less match or exceed the bar, it's just disappointing, and it kind of sullies what's one of the best matchups, best rivalries in all of football against the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's still talent over there. I don't think Joe Flacco, obviously the elite label has been tarnished on him a couple years after the Super Bowl now, and folks are just looking for him to be a pretty good quarterback. Still hasn't put that together. It's going to be an interesting season, but this game against the Raiders coming up, this is a chance. This is a chance for them to get a team that's still trying to lick their own wounds and start to right the ship for this Baltimore Ravens team.
Chad Brown, longtime linebacker and defensive gem for the Seahawks, the Patriots, and, of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers, joining us here. He's Chad Brown 94 out on Twitter. He's running around with Compass Media doing college football from Alabama last week to USC, Oregon State, and parts unknown, worldwide, as they say, Chad. Love you, brother. Appreciate all that you do, and let's stay in touch, and hopefully our paths will cross. I mean, I tried to take you to Tom Petty at Red Rocks. Do you want to fall on the sword right now and tell everyone how I begged you to take the extra 2 tickets at Red Rocks back on Memorial Day weekend, and you turned me down?
Yes, I will go comfortably onto the insane list and say I turned down Tom Petty at Red Rocks next to you and your wife.
And it turned out Mike Silver was in the row with us too. So we went. I mean, and Nils Lofgren was with us that night too. So it was an all-star cast, Chad. You
would have been epic company at an epic show at one of the most epic venues in all of not just the country but in all the world.
It is a great place.
And I had too much going on, could not break away. Completely my mistake, my bad.
All right, we'll make it up next time. You two or the Stones come through. You owe me one. So, Chad, take care of yourself, man. We'll see you further on up the road, man. Appreciate you.
Always great talking to you, my friend.
You got a Chad Brown 94 out on Twitter, the way to reach him, and certainly some great thoughts on the knee and the military and his family's involvement. I met Chad a few years ago, he was bringing service dogs around for wounded warriors and for PTSD warriors coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq and defending our country and giving them the love of an animal. So I didn't even talk to Chad about Kitty. I definitely should have done that, but I'll send him the blog I wrote on Kitty. That's what I'll do. Great man, Chad Brown. Chad Brown 9'4", not a bad guy for a Steeler, by the way. And by the way, I must point this out with the Steelers. I went down on the field to congratulate Mike Tomlin after the game. Everybody knows of my bromance with Coach Tomlin. And the first thing he said to me was, really sorry to hear about Kitty, man. Give Jen my love. I'm like, wow. Mike Tomlin knew about Kitty. Wow. Who didn't know about Kitty? So there you have it. The BuyAToyota.com audio vault is there for animal lovers and everyone alike. 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. We even come in worldwide, where Chad Brown is, including in front of Buckingham Palace in the 94 Steelers jersey. The morning newspaper ships to your email inbox, courtesy of Planet Fitness at PlanetFitness.com. That happens every morning at 7 a.m. That is free of charge. Planet Fitness is $10 a month, and they're awesome. Last but never least, don't forget that breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. It's all brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.